Hi, I'm attorney Tanya Stewart, and we are back with the Turning Point Summit. How to use the hardest times in your life to create the exact life you want. I always say I'm excited. I can't think of anything else to say because everybody I talk to makes me excited. And Greg Kuhn is not an exception to this. So I'm excited. I'll find a better adjective later. Greg Kuhn is an author, and he is an educator, and he's an administrator, and he is a husband and a father, and he is freaking brilliant. And his work has just blown me away. I will tell you that the true story that I've put the summit together to find tools for you so that you can get to a spot in your life if you're stuck and reach out and grab one of these tools. And Greg was that tool for me. It was late at night, and I literally asked God, I said, God, I'm stuck on this issue. Please, God, send me a tool. And I literally bumped into, God directed me to, one of Greg's little ebooks, this tiny little ebook. And I read it, and it's like midnight, and I just sucked it up, and it just shifted everything for me. And here I am, like, writing him an email, because I'm bold like that, writing the author an email at, like, midnight, for crying out loud. So I'm just telling you off the bat before he says a word, I think he's brilliant. So, Greg Kuhn, professional educator and futurist, specializing in framing new paradigms for the 21st century living. He has got books. His series is called How Quantum Physicists ... So how they build new beliefs, how they do not fail, how they don't get fat. That's actually a good one. How they create more abundance, how quantum physicists do not suffer. Welcome, Greg Kuhn.
My goodness. I don't even know what to say after that introduction. Thank you so much. I'm excited too, but I really would rather listen to you continue to talk about me. It's very pleasing.
See, now you know that in addition to everything else, he's also honest. So how's about that? So your work changes lives, and you've touched so many people, and that's how I came to find you. Your work moved me. It helped me. And I'm so excited, since I've met you and talked with you and worked with you a little bit, you've gone on to write other things, other magnificent things, and we're going to be talking about one of those later. But first, please tell our viewers a little bit about you.
Thanks a lot. I am psyched too. I was thinking about how psyched I was leading up to this call, and Tanya, my life has exploded. My profession, my career, really all aspects of my life. When one thing changed for me, if I can boil it down to one thing, and that's even after the books have been published, and that is now I look for people to tell me what's wrong with anything that I do. I look for people to tell me, how can I make this better? That used to scare the heck out of me.
Right.
And so one of the things that really pumped me up about this topic, the Turning Point Summit, is when I look back and say, okay, how did I learn to not be scared of the truth, somebody else's perception that can help me become better and the things I do be better. Well, I learned that during the hardest times I ever experienced, and so I'm really excited about talking with you about that today. Just in a nutshell, and I don't know, folks. Oftentimes, I think comparing pain can be dangerous, but I do want to say that when I talk about my hardest times, in a nutshell, I was facing bankruptcy. I was facing about 14 foreclosures. My wife left me to raise my 3 sons by myself, and I was facing about $1 million in debt to go along with all those other things.
Wow.
So it was, when we talk about hard times, and I don't want to compare that to anyone else's, worst time, if you will, but certainly for me, that was hell on earth.
Yeah.
And it really did become a turning point for me. It's something I talk about, quite often in my books, and it's a pretty compelling subject. I'm glad you asked about it. you had mentioned a couple things, and before we got going, I want to hear your thoughts too. I want to say I've prepared 7 solid takeaways today.
Okay.
And they're scaffolded. They build on each other.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to start by saying this: anybody can be a genius in retrospect. That's the easiest thing in the world. I do it all the time. The idea, though, for me, I've never made a mistake or taken a misstep that I didn't think was going to work out the way I wanted.
Right.
And I've never hurt anyone, including myself, on purpose. Even things that somebody might point and say, well, Greg, the fact that you didn't think this would hurt someone is ridiculous. Whatever the illusion I was harboring or misconception or misinformation had me completely bamboozled.
Right.
So, we make mistakes, right? We take missteps. And the pain that led me to my turning point, perhaps to call that a mistake or a misstep might be a bit of a disservice, especially to the people that were in my life and that it affected. I like to think that one of the takeaways from this summit, hopefully for everyone, and I hope that I can contribute to this, and I know you're putting this together, thank you for doing that, is to get, we hear about having the mentality of a Major League Baseball closer. I'm going to walk to the mound and I'm going to get the last 3 outs, but they hit 2 home runs off me and I lose the game.
Right.
Well, I have to come out the next night, and if I'm going to do my job, I have to have already forgotten about
Right.
that. Well, that's an extremely, extremely challenging proposition. I also like to think of it maybe a little softer way to think about it is this TV show I used to watch reruns of when I was a kid called Get Smart.
I love that show.
Yeah, it was like I think Mel Brooks.
Was Mel Brooks?
Writer.
Yeah, was it Mel Brooks?
It was. Mel Brooks was one of the writers. He wasn't on it.
Right.
The main character was a spy named Maxwell Smart.
Yeah.
And he was constantly making mistakes. And every time that he made a mistake, he would say, "Missed it by that much."
Yeah.
And the joy of the character was it really seemed like he believed it. Although everyone around him was like, "Max, that's ridiculous. You didn't miss it by that much. You always miss it." But he never saw it that way.
Right.
So when I look back, I think, and here's my first question to you.
Okay.
I think most people would concur that our worst experiences eventually turn into stepping stones.
Yeah.
If we hang in there, if we give them enough time, if we put in some effort, and I think we're all familiar with that concept. We've probably all experienced it. So to me, the question is how to turn them into stepping stones right afterward, or maybe even while we're in the middle of them. Now, if we can get to that point, now we're a major league closer, and
Yes.
and that's, I want to contribute my part
Okay.
to that intention. Do you think that's a pretty common experience, that most people have had the experience of seeing tough times turn into stepping stones?
I think honestly the people who are drawn here, they know intrinsically that eventually they will see the light at the end of the tunnel or the rainbow or the lesson in it.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is they're still in it, or they're stuck and they're spinning, so they can't get the elevation, to get the perception, to see what's going on differently.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'd like to go right in.
Go ahead, dive. We're ready.
Okay. What I have found, compiling and really being an active researcher, if you will, in taking new paradigms that we glean from quantum physics and saying, how can I apply my life to this?
Mm-hmm.
How can this improve the reason I do things the way I do them? One of the things that I would say is of paramount importance is the way that we assess ourselves, the way we assess our efficacy or the effectiveness of what we do.
Okay.
And I really want to put a lot of emphasis on a new way to assess ourselves. And it does involve emotional honesty. You and I were talking before you hit the record button about how important it is to be emotionally honest. And for a lot of folks, people who have been exposed to self-help literature or sought self-improvement and self-empowerment, positive thinking, which obviously is a very good tool when it's utilized in its proper place, but positive thinking tends to be seen as a gold standard or a cure-all, if you will. And alternatively, on the flip side, emotions or thoughts that are not inherently positive in nature or aren't pleasant to experience tend to be demonized, as if somehow they're the cause or the source of the hard times.
Let me show that what you're saying is basically something goes wrong in your life. Your boss comes down on you, your marriage is looking a little wiggly, and most of us are trained to just think a good thought, think a good thought, think a good thought. I'm going to be positive, I won't get fired, my husband won't leave me, I'm going to think a good thought. And when the emotion comes up that you feel like crap, or you feel terrified or petrified or depressed or anxious or angry, you actually judge yourself for having that emotion and then try to push it away as fast as you can and think positive. Yeah.
Yes. Hey, you just described the first 35 years of my life. That's pretty good. I didn't know it could be summed up so succinctly. You are an excellent biographer. So there's two keys today, okay. that I really want to focus on,
okay.
And they go hand in glove. One allows the other, and the other allows the first. Mm-hmm. The first thing, though, that I want to before talking a little bit about the emotional honesty, I want to talk about, I mentioned the way we assess ourselves.
Okay.
And emotional honesty really makes this not only possible, but powerful. I want people listening to this call to really get charged up about formative assessment as opposed to summative assessment.
Oh, you're going to have to explain that better.
Okay. Well,
and look at me. You have gorgeous eyes. You're like reading something, Mr. Professor guy. You keep some eye contact over here.
All right.
I'm talking to you.
I'm taking some notes down here.
I see you taking notes, but you stay with me.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I am a professor. I'm sorry.
I know.
So here's the deal. Summative assessment.
Okay.
A summative assessment is a diagnosis. It's a final diagnosis. Okay. Summative assessment means I passed or I failed. Gotcha. I won or I lost.
I screwed
it
up.
I'm wrong. Okay. Right? That's it. Like the cake has been baked. It's out of the oven.
Right.
Here it is. And it's pretty natural, that we would assess ourselves summatively in that manner, because here's an outcome that I desired.
Right.
Did it happen or did it not?
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of eyeball evidence to suggest that that's how we should do it. Mm-hmm. My case is for formative assessment. And what I want to propose is that formative assessment jibes much more with the way our universe actually works. Formative assessment means we're taking a temperature or we're taking our pulse. It means that we're not making a diagnosis. A formative assessment is a status check. It's a check-in.
I got it.
Yeah, the timer doesn't ding.
I have a really good story for this. I was talking to one of my coaching clients, and I'd asked him to do a testimonial for me, and he just couldn't do it. He was like stuck. Mm-hmm. And I was like, we have to work on this. What is going on with you? And finally he goes, I can't give a testimonial because I just don't feel like I'm there yet. And I saw it. I was like, you're thinking of a testimonial more like an obituary. You're not done. A testimonial in your life is simply a snapshot of where you are at that moment. It's the temperature that you have at that moment. It's the, hey, I reached this part of the peak. There's still another mountain and a whole range, but you can actually say, I've gotten this far. And he was stuck because he was trying to do the summative assessment instead of doing a formative assessment and saying, I've gotten this far, I have gotten these wins. He was so focused on the fact that he wasn't at X done place, he didn't think he could say anything.
Well, and yeah, you're right. We get hung up. It sounds like such a simple concept.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know about you, but usually the way it works for me is I'll hear some information like this and I'll say, hey, that sounds great. And then as soon as times get tough, you know, the title of the seminar, all of a sudden that flies out the window.
Right.
And I can always tell when I'm assessing myself summatively because I use words like failure, I use words like lost, I use words like, you know, I didn't pass, I'm wrong, you know, once again, or things don't work out. Those kind of judgments
Closure
are a
words.
red light indicator.
You're using final closure words, but you're still alive and you're not done yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the thing is with formative assessment, here's all we have to do. We simply say, not yet. That's it, right?
That's it.
Not yet. In fact, when I assess the results or when I assess the outcome, instead of using terms like right and wrong or pass and fail,
right?
Here's a takeaway. Replace those words permanently with these: pleased and displeased. That's it.
Oh.
Pleased and displeased.
Okay.
Now, those are naturally formative. They're not final, right? If I'm pleased, I can become more pleased.
Yeah.
And if I'm displeased, I can become pleased. And in fact, what I would suggest is this: when you are assessing the results or the outcome, if you're pleased, say, hey, this is wonderful. I'm pleased. I'm looking forward to seeing if I can make this even better, right? Now, if I'm not pleased, what I say is, you know what? I'm not pleased. This hasn't occurred to my desires yet. Not yet. And you know what? I'm looking forward to making it better, okay? Making it better. I want to hearken to an analogy here. A chef. Let's say Tanya Stewart is a chef and you're making your world famous, you know, green pea mint soup. So when you're in your kitchen and you're adding ingredients and you're stirring and you've got the big soup pot bubbling, you're going to taste it every now and then, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty common.
I gotta see how it's going.
Yep. In fact, wouldn't you say that tasting it is really a vital part of creating it?
You have to, like I said, it's some status. You know, I got to know, is it coming together? Did I add a little bit too much of this? I have to take its temperature, yeah.
Exactly. Well, tasting the soup that you're making is formative assessment, okay? Now, when that soup gets served to your guests, now they are going to make a summative assessment.
Yeah, because it's
correct?
Yeah.
Now, their summative assessment may be, this is wonderful, the best soup I've ever had. Or they may spit it out across the table at you. And I would think that second outcome would be rather displeasing. And it would be quite natural for you, Tanya, to give yourself a summative assessment and say, my soup is a failure. However, I will say this: as natural as that is, and as inclined as we may be to give that kind of an assessment, we're not required to do so.
So tell me the advantage. Give me one sentence advantage on why it is I need, because what I hear you saying is stop using final assessments of the outcomes of your things and judging them harshly. Give yourself permission to view it as a work in progress that you're pleased or displeased with, so you leave room for it. Is that?
Even the biggest, most painful mistakes are assessments. They're formative assessments. Remember, Thomas Edison said, I've merely discovered 10,000 ways that it doesn't
work. Yeah.
And some of my best ideas that turned into my biggest errors were errors that I had no idea were errors until I made them.
Right.
Well, so here's the thing. There's a tremendous amount of value in going back to that chef metaphor. Right. I'm tasting it and I'm saying, this is wonderful. This is wonderful soup. And then I serve it and the customer spit it out and throw their napkin down and leave. That's a horrible outcome for a chef.
Right.
That's pretty much the worst assessment a chef can get. But isn't the chef actually going to look back and say, you know, I'm actually really glad that I received that feedback because I thought the soup was fantastic. I had no idea that it wasn't fantastic until I learned. So formative, what the chef is doing is turning that assessment, instead of it being a grave that she's being placed in and a flag planted or a tombstone put down, right? It becomes a formative assessment, not pleasing, mind you. Now, we're not talking about pretending that we're happy that the outcome is displeasing. You know, I look back and I, think about times that, mistakes that I made and pain that I caused myself and others. Those were incredibly important lessons.
Yeah.
Lessons I would not trade today. I wouldn't want to be, Greg Kuhn without the knowledge that arose from those painful lessons.
So I got my first step. I'm going to stop looking at my things as final, and I'm going to start looking at them as something in progress. So where do I go next?
In progress. So the next thing is this, to support that. Remember, we're using the terms desirable and undesirable.
Right.
In place of that worked or it didn't work, or that passed or it failed.
Right.
And we're choosing to see outcomes as a work in progress, as a temperature being taken. And to support that, and vice versa, we're going to make a decision to be emotionally honest. We're going to make a decision regardless of how taboo the emotion may be, right? Because we're not supposed to get angry. Spiritual people aren't supposed to be angry. Spiritual people, these are things that I tell myself sometimes. Yeah. I'm a spiritual person. I shouldn't feel this way, right? I should be in a different place. Right. And in fact, I get that question a lot. I'll have people that contact me and say, I'm at the top of the emotional reference chart, but where's my desire? I'm feeling frustrated. I'm angry. It's not here, right? Well, the emotional reference chart, which makes its appearance in almost all my books, and it's on my website, the top of the chart is love and ecstasy.
Right.
So what they're saying is, hey...
You're not at the top of the chart.
Right. Now, my response to them is...
Wait, let me stop you because I got to get people on board with this chart.
Gotcha.
This is an important concept. It's probably one of the most important concepts that I found in your book that night when I was reading it. You have it. If someone's familiar with Esther Hicks, you'll see some of it there. It's the concept that there is a progression of emotions. That there are emotions down here, the heavier, denser, harder, nastier emotions, and there's despair and depression, and they're all down there, and you go up, 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 lighter and higher till you get to love and ecstasy. And the biggest takeaway I got from your work was that you shouldn't be trying to move massive jumps of emotion. So for instance, what happens is your boyfriend breaks up with you, and then you try to be happy again. Like, he just broke up with you, and an hour later, you're a spiritual person, so I'm just going to be happy. No, you're not. No, you're not.
Right. That's a common... In fact, I hear that a lot. Someone will say, Greg, I just can't figure out a way to feel positive about this.
Right.
And my response usually is, why would you? Why would you want to feel positive about that? And I get the idea. obviously, when we have desirable experiences, they're accompanied by desirable emotional states.
Right.
Well, so we make a correlation, and then that correlation is really bolstered by some of the literature out there that suggests, well, if you want the experience, the trick or the key is to get into the emotional state, and the experience will follow it.
Right.
That does work if we're in a bit of a dip or a pothole. You know, if it's something that we're typically pleased with the outcome, and somehow we've, just hit a weird space where we've jumped off track a bit. That kind of positive thinking can put us back on track.
Right.
But when we're really looking at our bugaboos, those things that have haunted us, if you will, and typically, I don't know, I will say this, the turning point in my life, the pain that led to that turning point, yeah, it came from one of those big bugaboos that I said, I'm finally going to go all in. I'm going to make this happen, and I haven't. And I got to tell you, for me, I thought the big secret I'd found that was going to really finally make it all happen was positive thought.
Right.
And I adhered to positive thought 100%. What I learned in the process is this: the biggest myth is that our gift, the one we've been waiting our whole life for to experience, it's not waiting for us at the top of the emotional reference chart. It's not waiting for us to unwrap it at love and ecstasy. It's actually waiting for us right now in our current emotional state.
Wow.
Our current emotional state has something to teach us that is the thing we've been waiting our entire life to know and experience.
That's the stop point. That's a writer-downer. I need everybody to pay attention to that. What he's saying is stop rejecting where you're feeling. There is a gift for you in what you're feeling. If you're depressed, you shouldn't be. Anything you resist persists anyway. We all know that to be true. So when you're actually sitting in these places of resistance and judgment to these lower emotions, you're causing a problem anyway. He is giving you permission to feel how you feel, and then do a natural progression up the emotional reference chart to get to the higher energies. You don't have to get there overnight. Give yourself permission to have the space to grieve if you're grieving.
Exactly. In fact, I'll go even further and say this. If I don't live in my current emotional state, whatever that is, I'm never going to achieve another one than this one. And it's funny because we think, and I've been there, and we think that we can fool ourselves.
Yes.
We think we can fool the
Yes.
universe, and we will look back on it. What is it that I'm doing when I'm not allowing myself to fully live in my current emotional state? Even if it's depression, even if it's sadness, even if it's despondency or anger. What I'm saying is that I have to prove myself worthy to the universe, that I have to earn and deserve the experiences that I desire. And while everyone's welcome to harbor beliefs like that, my experience has been...
Not on my summit, they're not. That's just BS. I'm really sorry. You're not
yeah,
welcome to harbor that belief.
and I'm glad you said that. It's not recommended, but a lot of us do it.
Yeah.
And you know what? We can try it, but I will tell you this: time and again. I mean, let's just look at it logically. Positive affirmation, right? If my bank account is less than I want it or need it to be, and I say, I know I'm going to give myself positive affirmations.
Right.
I'm going to go to the mirror and I'm going to say that I'm worthy and that I'm wealthy and that I experience abundance and abundance is my birthright. And I'm not making fun of those statements. What a beautiful statements, right? But if that's not really where I am, what am I doing? I'm lying to myself.
You're lying to yourself.
Yeah.
I'm giving you permission. I want you to be blunt. Stop putting all these disclaimers in there. Just tell these people what they need to know. Stop making, if you're making an affirmation and you don't feel a connection to it, not only is it not helpful, it's hurtful.
And if you want blunt, I'll give you blunt.
Okay.
Have you ever given yourself a positive affirmation for something that you were experiencing abundantly?
You're right.
So every time, everyone listening on this call, every time you've given yourself a positive affirmation, you've been lying to yourself. Every single time.
Oh my gosh, that's interesting. You're right. When I'm really happy, I don't walk around going, I'm happy, happy, happy. Look how happy,
Right.
happy I am, because I am happy.
Exactly. We're differentiating this from gratitude.
Right.
Because I feel plenty of gratitude.
Right.
Gratitude is different from intentional positive affirmation. We only do that for things that we aren't actually experiencing. And the trick is, throw in this little caveat here, the reason why this is all true is because material reality in this plane is real. It's very real, okay? It developed through construct and very real. Kick a rock if you think that's not true. However, as real as it is, there is one thing about it that's completely subjective, and it's the meaning and value that every single thing, person, place, thing, or event holds.
Okay.
Every single person, place, or thing, or event is completely subjective, and it takes the meaning and value that is reflective of the beliefs we bring to the system we create when we experience it. So that is really all that is a slightly more complicated way to explain that we really do create. We don't literally create the walls and the cars and the trees and the clouds, but we create the version of them that we experience in our individual universe, and it's based on the meaning and value we bring. So those things that cause us the most pain,
Right.
those things that we're always giving ourselves those positive affirmations about, we are giving that meaning and value to those things. We can't stop giving that meaning and value just because we start lying. That doesn't take away that old meaning and value. The only way to transform that meaning and value is to really be where we are right now.
Gotcha.
The funny thing about it is we're already here, right? I mean, it's really like opening
now, I'm
our
going to
eyes.
stop you because I need a blueprint. I don't want anybody to get lost. I need you to tell me where we're going and where we are on our list of things, because I know we were talking in the beginning about how it is that we're... Wait, give me the first point. First point.
Okay, so the first takeaway is this. We're going to assess formatively. We're
And I'm not
going
going to use your
our
word because
temperature.
it's too hard for people to remember. I'm going to tell you, don't make final assessments.
Don't make
it
final assessments.
Keep it in the process. So I'm keeping
Keep it in the process.
So if I'm looking at something crappy, don't call it finished. Okay.
Right. We're gonna use the term pleasing and displeasing.
My
we're gonna
crappy
use the phrase-
situation is displeasing. Okay.
And when it's displeasing, we're going to say not yet.
Not yet. It's not done yet.
yet.
It's not done yet.
Right. Not
Good.
yet leads us forward. And part and parcel with that is we're going to be emotionally honest.
Okay. So now we're being honest with ourselves about how we feel about the crappy, displeasing thing.
Right. We're not going to play adult dress up anymore.
Gotcha. All right. Now I want you to give it to me this way because this is working for me. So I'm looking at my crappy thing, and instead of saying this is final, I'm screwed. I'm like, you know what? This is in process. It's not done yet. I'm not pleased with it. And then I'm looking at it, and then I'm going to say, okay, I'm actually seriously pissed off about it. That's just how I feel right now. I am seriously pissed off about this. I'm owning my emotional place because if I don't, I'm lying to myself.
Yep.
So now I've told myself the truth. What do I do now?
All right. Next. This is let's keep it simple.
Yeah.
Next. We listen and express those, in and out, right? To ourselves and others, and with ourselves and others, listen and express to learn. Okay?
Learn.
We don't have to go out and do things. Well, sometimes we do things. Of course we do things. But what precedes that is once we are, once we're not giving ourselves that final assessment, and we're saying not yet.
Not yet.
And then we're being emotionally honest.
Right.
What we do is we express honestly to learn.
To learn.
Not to convince other people.
That's the word you were missing. Okay. That's the piece we're missing. So now I'm talking about the crappy situation, but I'm not talking about the crappy situation to convince somebody that I'm right or that it's crappy. I'm talking because I want to learn more about it.
Right. We want to learn. And then we listen to learn, not to convince ourselves that we're right or that we're victims.
That's different. Okay.
That opens up. You know what happens when you put those things together? There's a fourth piece to it. But those three things together, what happens is the universe turns into your private tutor. You learn everything you need to know right now, right here. It's what you've been waiting your entire life to know and learn. And guess what happens?
What?
Right here, right now, your circumstances, which the people, places, things, and events in your life, they begin to transform in conjunction with what you're learning.
So hold on, I'm translating for you again. So I think what I'm hearing you saying is that if I look at my crappy situation and I go, okay, here's my situation, but you know what? It's not final. It's not done yet. Not really pleased with it. And I'm being completely honest about how I feel about it. And now I'm listening and I'm talking, but I'm doing it to learn the lesson that the quote-unquote crappy situation came to show me. Is that it?
You are listening and expressing to learn. Yes. I will say this. I think you're onto something there, saying what the crappy situation is there to show me. I definitely know this. My best ideas took me to a place where the experiences I created were not only not what I desired, but painful, right? So I like what you said. What is that pain and what is that crappy situation there to teach me and show me? It's there to teach me and show me about my misconceptions, my illusions, my misperceptions that were persisting until I learned differently. Now, look at the flip side of it. How do we usually respond to tough times? We worry, we stress, we obsess, and we take action.
And we push, yeah.
And we push.
Yeah.
So, does that really work? Has that ever worked?
No.
But you know, fight or flight. We start thinking, hey, the crap has hit the fan.
Right.
You know, this is what we do. This is what I have to do. All that spiritual stuff sounds, you know, mighty nice, but right now, I don't have time for that. I got to take action. I got to get moving. You know, I got to respond to that eyeball evidence that says I need my hands on this, rather than, you know, taking a step back and learning.
So what is my fourth step then? I'm labeling my crappy situation appropriately. I'm expressing how I feel about it, and I'm paying attention, so I'm learning the lesson. What do I do then?
You know what? The fourth step is so simple.
What?
Well, the other steps are simple too. I like how you've simplified them even more. The fourth step is so simple. We adjust. That's it. We adjust.
Course correct. There it is. So basically, that makes sense. See, I'm getting it because it makes sense to me. I'm looking at this event that previously I was going to label as horrible, final, and fatal. I'm taking the final label off of it. I'm saying, you know what? It's in progress. It means I can still influence it. It takes my brain out of complete panic because it's not done yet. Like the paint's not entirely dry yet. And I'm being honest that I feel crappy about it. And then I'm watching for my lesson. I'm listening and I'm talking, but I'm looking for the lesson that the universe is bringing to me. And then once I have the lesson, I can implement it. I can adjust based on it. I can course correct.
Except one thing I want to add to that.
Okay.
And the difference.
Yeah.
The way we used to adjust, back when we said pass, fail, right, wrong.
Right.
Adjustment meant work harder, do it more.
Yes.
Do it more intensely.
Right.
Do it more correctly,
Right.
right? Which always felt like a kick in the teeth when I really felt like I was putting my best effort into it in the first place.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I guess I need to get another book, right? This adjustment, you know what this adjustment is?
What?
it is this: be more emotionally honest with yourself and listen and express more to learn, or learn more. So be more emotionally honest, go deeper, and learn more. You know,
Wow.
take your learning to it. Now, that's doable, right?
Wow.
That is so doable. And it never feels like I'm being chastised. It never feels like I'm being given a test back that has an F on it, you know? You know what? Learning that, hey, you know what? Not yet. You know, I look at my, take my relationship, my marriage. Gosh, I have an interaction. I hurt my wife's feelings. I didn't mean to. I didn't think I was going to. So I assess and I say, wow, that interaction didn't yet happen the way I really desired. So not yet. And to be honest, I'm disappointed. I'm ashamed. I don't like disappointing people. So I'm feeling some really uncomfortable feelings here.
Right.
And I'm going to express and listen to learn. And here's what I learned: when I say things a certain way, and I'm thinking and I'm seeing things in a certain way that lead to it, it creates a mindset where it's reasonably self-centered. Okay, well, my wife helps me see that. So now I adjust. How do I adjust? I don't have to become a better husband. I wasn't substandard. I wasn't incapable previously. What I wasn't doing, though, was I wasn't emotionally honest as deeply as I could be. You know, I bypassed how I felt in the moment, and also I wasn't expressing and listening to learn as completely as I could. Now I can do that. I can be more honest, and I can learn more. You know, it becomes a lifestyle, Tanya. Instead of trying to always convince you about what I see,
Right.
there's not a lot of value there. If the gold in life, the desirable experiences, 99.9% of them are found through understanding rather than being understood.
Oh, that's a beatitude. Grant that I not so much seek to be understood as to understand. There's a reason they say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If my lifestyle has become understanding. Now, all this may sound, it sounds relatively simple to me, but anybody who's not having desirable experiences is going to find that some of this dishonesty is pretty deeply ingrained.
Yeah.
Don't be surprised at the constant adjustments we're making, and that's where the emotional reference chart comes in handy. It gives us a blueprint or a guide, if you will. Along the way, if you adhere to your current emotional state completely, the feedback will be immense. You're going to get gifts.
I'm going to translate that. Stay where you are. Stop trying to be happy if you're not happy. If you are not overjoyed, do not be overjoyed. That is a lie. Usually what I tell people that I coach is, if you're trying to get somewhere, you have to start with the coordinates of where you actually are. If you put into the GPS a place you're not going to get good directions. So this whole system is designed to guide you if you're honest about where you are. So be honest about where you are.
Right. But ultimately, of course, we don't want to stay there.
No.
Maybe we don't want to give ourselves positive affirmations and jump right into, take some quantum leap up into this crazy lie about how positive we feel. We also don't want to stay on the lower end of the scale, because while that may be where I am right now, the version of my desired experiences at that point, well, they're not going to be as pleasing as I truly want them to be.
How do I move then?
So that part is beautiful. That's why the emotional reference chart is so handy. Once we are here, and and seeing through that lens of where we are rather than in denial about it.
Right.
All we need to do is intentionally look to the next tick up the emotional reference chart, because the next tick up, for those who haven't read it before, is very slight.
Can you give us an example? Because it's hard to be abstract. So give me here's one emotion and here's one emotion one up. So
sure.
Yeah.
I will say here's one that people have probably heard before. Depression.
Right.
Is an emotional state on the emotional reference chart, and some of us may start at depression. Mm-hmm. Some of us may need to go up the chart to reach depression. But do you know what's above depression? Anger.
Anger.
Now, is anger a desirable emotional state? I will tell you, I don't often find anger to be a pleasant emotional state.
Right.
But I will say this. It is a more desirable emotional state than depression.
Correct.
However, only slightly so.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't need to get into all the whys and wherefores of why it's important to go slowly. It really has to do with our subconscious brain. Mm-hmm. But I will say this. Anger is a more I don't want to use the word positive. Anger
is the word positive because it's true. It is moving in a more positive direction. Mm-hmm.
Anger is an outward expression of disappointment, whereas depression is an inward expression or manifestation of disappointment.
Yeah.
So when I look at the emotional reference chart and I see depression and then anger, and I say, hey, I'm on depression, and my goal, once I am fully here in depression, is to move to anger, well, somehow that doesn't feel right. The joy, the beauty of once people invest themselves is that, oh, there's a gold mine in anger. Why? There's a gold mine in depression. I mean, first of all, if I've never allowed myself to be where I really am, there's a gold mine waiting there of lessons, of feedback, of experiences that even though they're not aligned with our truly desired outcomes, they're so much more pleasant than anything we've ever experienced because we're experiencing it through that actual lens instead of through our super convoluted series of lies that we set up to keep ourselves in denial and continue to stay one step ahead of our own awareness.
Yeah, we're trying to pretend that we're not where we are. And one of the things that's really powerful that I understand is that just from the basics of evolution, creatures do not evolve to another state until they have maximized their potential at one level. So what I learn and what I teach people is that if you want to be, if you're in a job and you're trying to get a promotion, have you completely blown the doors off the level that you're at? Have you taken every opportunity, maximized everything you could do, absorbed everything, learned everything where you're at? When you're at that part, the universe will naturally ascend you, and it works the same way with your emotions. If you are depressed and you're resisting being depressed, then you're not getting all the benefit and lessons that the universe has for you at that level. So, because they love you, you're not going to graduate. You're going to stay there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I look back, my worst experience. So if someone's listening to this and they're in a really terrible situation, a super painful situation where their life is consumed with worry, I was looking at $1 million in debt. There was no way I was ever going to repay that. I was going to declare bankruptcy. That was going to stay with me for the rest of my life. Those 14 foreclosures, they don't go away. My wife is gone. I'm raising my kids by myself, and for the rest of my life, I'm going to be that guy.
That guy.
That guy who is such an idiot. Well, so someone in that situation who's listening to this and they're saying, how in the world does, what bearing does anything you're saying have upon me? What I would say is this. Okay. I never began to be freed from that situation until I actually allowed myself to be as sad and angry as I really was.
That's so
I spent
powerful.
I was so angry and so sad and so disappointed. But all my energy was going into, no, I gotta stay. I gotta just, I gotta hammer through this. I gotta stay positive. I can't let up. I can't give up. I can't give up. You know, winners are just people who don't give up, right? Feeling how we feel,
Right.
being in our current emotional state,
Right.
that's not giving up. In fact, that's saying that's the ultimate confidence. It's the ultimate empowerment. It's saying to the universe, I am where I am, and where I am is okay. I hate it. I would trade anything to not be here. That's how much I am displeased by it.
Right.
And I am here.
I'm here.
When we're in a place like that,
I am here.
how else are we going to feel? When my wife leaves me, or when I get fired from my job, or my car breaks down again, or I get that notice from the credit card company saying, hey, you haven't made a payment in 2 months. And my son comes home and he got suspended from school, and the rent's due in 2 weeks, and I just had to spend a bunch of money to fix the water heater or whatever, right? Be angry. Be sad. Be upset. Feel how we feel.
Yes.
And as we make that assessment and say, you know what? My best ideas have created a big not yet, and I am pissed off, or I'm so disappointed in myself. I feel like the biggest failure in the world. Okay? So I'm being honest, and then I'm gonna through that honesty, I'm gonna learn, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna adjust, and I'm gonna say, you know what? I'm gonna be honest about how I feel. I'm gonna let the universe teach me what I need to know, and I can't learn that by pretending to be happy when I'm not happy. I can't learn that pretending to be positive when I'm not positive. So in a way, and this is, people watching the summit who are in a painful spot will probably slap me for saying this if they could. But you are right where you're supposed to be. We've always heard that phrase.
But now we know why.
That's right.
Phrase works. Now we know why that phrase works. You're right where you're supposed to be because you haven't gotten the lesson yet. If you just stop resisting where you are and get the lesson, you can get the hell out of there.
That's right.
That's
right.
Works.
People are watching this video and they're seeing you and me have a very upbeat, positive affect, a very bright, joyful affect. And I will say this, I don't care how bad someone's painful situation is.
Okay.
There are areas of their life where they are experiencing abundance and joy and love and satisfaction, and they do have a positive, upbeat affect. Mm-hmm. It just so happens that most of my life, I've allowed myself to learn. And so, I don't have that kind of suffering, but it's not because I was smart or quick or, had some inside track or some kind of, I wasn't anointed. Tanya Stewart wasn't touched on the head any more or any less than anyone else.
Right.
The only difference is in life as far as how pleasing our outcomes can become. The only thing that ever stands in our way is our own unwillingness to be honest and learn and adjust.
Oh, stop. That's critical. I want everybody to hear that. The only thing that's standing in your way is your ability to be honest and learn and adjust. And
just remember that adjustment, granted, there are going to be times where we run into action steps.
Right.
And we're inspired to do that. And we hear wonderful things. Well, like this video, and in fact, the whole series. I know you have a wonderful group of folks who are sharing their wisdom. Those sort of, if you hear something and it makes sense and it clicks, that's part of the adjustment too, because we're learning. Remember, we're learning. We're being more honest, and we're learning. And we're committed, even when those experiences start becoming more pleasurable. Even when we say, hey, it's not hard for me to imagine having this experience just as I desire. It doesn't seem so far-fetched anymore. We're still assessing ourselves formatively. We're still saying, you know what? The wonderful thing about desires is that they grow.
They grow. You
know?
always have more of them. You're
They
not dead.
grow.
You're still desiring something.
That's a beautiful thing.
Ah.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, by the way, I'm going to compliment you. I've had to peel you like an onion. You started off all professory on me, and now you are passionate. You are focused. You are right there. You were giving it, and this is awesome. This is what everybody needed to hear. We needed to understand. We needed to get that clarity, and thank you so much for connecting with your passion and just throwing it out there. It's not about who it pisses off. I really don't care. It's my summit. You know, this is about giving somebody that tool to break through. And I really think you did an awesome job in explaining that, you know, yeah, you were down about as far as people go. And these are the steps that you can take to start to get away from there. And they seem really simple. And like I said before, things that are simple to do are simple not to do. Being emotionally honest is simple not to do. You know, listening to learn and not to convince, not to tell your story, keep being a victim. That's simple not to do. But what he's telling you is listen and learn and adjust by letting in more information. The universe is going to tell you what the point of this quote-unquote crappy thing is. And as soon as you get it, I have this great statement that I've read before. When you see your teachers can disappear. These crappy events are your teachers. If you'll just get what they're showing you, they can go. They can go away.
That's right. You know what? I'll say it. How about I say it a different way?
Yeah.
People that are emotionally honest and who learn, who make that primary.
Yeah.
They're taught by the universe every day.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And people who are not emotionally honest and don't put a priority on learning, they're taught by those of us who do. So you can make your choice. Which group do you want to be in? Hey, sometimes I'm in the second group on any given day.
Yeah.
You know, and thank God for those, like Tanya Stewart can be somebody for me who is being emotionally honest and who is learning, and then I learn from you. But I don't want to be dependent on people who are doing that.
Right.
That's the trick.
Right.
And that's, we've all been there. I need to get the next book. Right. I need to get the next CD series. Right. I need to listen to the next and watch the next video. That's the cycle that we get in when we don't become an honest learner who adjusts to what we learn.
What you're talking about basically is a direct connection to source. I mean, when you, it's kind of like source has got an outlet on this wall. If this is the plug. If you plug it in, then it'll teach you directly. And if you don't want to be taught directly, then you've always got to go through some other third-party medium, and it's like a game of operator, and you figure out maybe you'll lose some, maybe you'll get some, maybe it'll take longer. But me, I'm all about speed, so I'd rather plug in the source if I can do it.
That's true. Yeah, and so positive affirmation and positive thoughts and those very well-intentioned instructions. Yeah. That when we do that, what we're plugging into, I don't know, like a mouse hole or something. Yeah. It's not actually an outlet.
Yeah, you're plugging into somebody else's power strip, which is plugged into their battery, and they're selling you their energy, basically. Mm-hmm. Wow. Yep. Oh my God, you're so smart. Oh my God, you're just so smart. You figure these things out.
Tanya, you have, I've been told that you've been hearing this. You're a fantastic interviewer. Oh. Your contributions and your questions, but you know what? It's not just your questions. You do formative assessment during the interview. You say, not yet. That's an answer, but not yet. And that's beautiful, right? You're right. Surrounding myself with people who tell me not yet. Not yet. Tanya, I used to try to build my life with people who would only just say, "Oh yeah, you're wonderful. Everything you do is okay with me." And people will allow themselves to be trained to do that. I think we call that codependency or something of that nature. I love being around people who don't do that. I love being around people who tell me the truth. It's
Oh,
their perception, but that's how I learn. I call it a guide on the side. You
oh,
know,
awesome.
you got to have guides on the side all the time. I do. I don't know how anyone else does it without them.
You're awesome. Okay, I gotta know I'm actually excited. I'm rubbing my hands together. What gift do you have for our interviewers, except for the 9 nuggets you gave us? So if anybody, you didn't write this down, you screwed up, hit rewind, go back, write all of his nuggets down. And then, what gift do you have for us?
You know what? I'm going to put together a report specially written for the summit that
Oh,
goes through the all 4 of these pathways
okay.
to abundance.
Okay.
Okay, it's well, it's starting by asking,
Hmm.
and we don't have time to get into that. There's a little different spin on what we ask for,
Okay.
and then moving into being, which is sort of encapsulates the emotional honesty, the learning,
The
the
learning.
listening and expressing to learn, and then the intentional use of the emotional reference chart,
Okay.
and then moving into the 3rd pathway, we've got formative assessment,
Hmm.
keeping it into the not yet
Not
realm,
yet.
and then the 4th is adjustment.
Adjustment.
Moving to using that feedback that comes from the assessment, using that not yet to guide us into deeper honesty, to guide us into deeper learning, and to guide us into the next emotional perspective on the
This is
emotional perspective chart,
awesome.
emotional reference chart.
I want people, and here's the thing, if you're listening, you probably got half of what we said, and that's okay. Listen to it again, because you'll start making connections and you'll start understanding it and you'll start following it, and then get his gift and use it as a manual. This is new stuff. It's not going to come in a perfect, pretty wrap box, and I really want you to put forth the energy and the effort, the attention and the focus to own it and to try it on in your life, because anything that's new is going to feel unusual to you in the beginning. But this is powerful stuff. I'm telling you that this is very powerful stuff. So I really want you to put forth the effort to integrate this in your life. Just give it a trial run for 30 days and then tell me how it's going for you.
Yeah, you know why it works so beautifully?
Mm.
The word manifestation or manifest, a dictionary definition of manifest is to make evident to our eyes or to our understanding.
Oh, okay.
And
Everything's the eyes. Okay.
I know that you are a fan of Jesus,
Mhm.
and Jesus has a very well-known miracle where he fed 5,000 people.
Yes,
Right?
the nose.
So I do know this. I know that clergy often will explain that miracle at least 2 different ways. Sometimes it's explained as a making something materialize out of thin air, like almost like a hocus pocus.
Focus, right?
Boom, there's fish and bread where nothing existed prior.
Mhm.
And another way of explaining it is that Jesus, his message motivated or inspired the 5,000 people in the crowd to share.
For sure.
Well, I will say this. Whichever way it happened,
Right.
I mean, it happened the way it needed to happen, right?
Right.
I do know this. If Jesus manifested the fish and bread out of thin air, boom, then he made it evident to their eyes, right? And that's wonderful. But here's one thing I know. I can't do that. If anybody else can do that, please write me. I want to know, okay? That's not a model for humans to follow. Now, whether or not Jesus did it by inspiring and motivating the crowd, hey, we may never know in this time space, but I'll say this. If he did that, if he inspired them, then he manifested it by making it evident to their understanding. And that is a model we can follow. And in fact, I'll go a step further. That is the model that humans have been given. That's how we manifest. the lives we desire. That's how we manifest the experiences we desire. It's not, we don't become David Copperfield.
Right.
Right? We change our understanding by being honest and learning and adjusting.
Wow. Oh my gosh, Greg, look at you. Every time I talk to him, I feel like I have to get a piece of paper, I have to write things down, I have to look this up, and then I have another thought come in, I have to go back and link it up. I mean, you just give me so much stuff for my brain to chew on, which I love, because I love seeing new things, I love seeing new connections. I'm clearly going to wake up in the middle of the night with an insight, and because I like you, I'm not going to text you and tell you what it is. I am so grateful that you shared all of this information and wisdom with our viewers today. It's rare that they get something new, and this was something new. So thank you so much for sharing with us today.
Thank you for the opportunity, Tanya. This couldn't have happened if we both weren't willing and participating, and I just, the opportunity is wonderful.
Thank you. Do you know the link that you're going to put our guide at, or do you just give it to me later?
I'm going to... Yeah, it's going to be at yquantumphysicists.com, and then the backslash is I believe I called it Turning Point Summit.
Okay, yquantumphysicists.com. It's / Turning Point Summit.
Yes, / Turning Point Summit.
Okay.
I sent it to you in an email.
Perfect. I will get it on there. They'll have it on their link before they even saw the interview, so they've already got it in their hot little hands. And probably I'll actually recommend people to get it and then listen to it with the interview. So see, I'm working.
Great. Well, I want to let you know that you are every bit as inspiring to me. Everything that you just described. Folks that are watching this, by the way, if you are ever in need of a guide on the side, you cannot. Tanya Tanya, you have taken me places one-on-one that there's no amount of thank you that's adequate, and you cannot make a better decision for a guide on the side than Tanya Stewart.
Oh my gosh, I thank you. I'm going to be a good girl, and I'm just going to receive that, and I want to just keep stepping into that, and I want to keep serving. I just want to keep serving. You're
my coach.
Oh, thank you.
I wouldn't have another one.
Oh gosh, I'm not messing up my makeup on behalf of you, sir. So no. So I'm gonna stop talking. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your honesty, and I appreciate you really serving of yourself and giving us something new to really get us past our stuck points and get to a turning point. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Bye.